Hello and welcome to the Life in General podcast. My name is Nick.
My name is Ian.
That's a very nice, calming.
Yeah, I was called out for my interpretation of an introduction.
you're like wild, crazy. Like I don't know. You were trying to harmonize with yourself. I don't know what the hell that was last episode.
Yeah, well, like I said, I like to mix things up a little bit.
Yeah, is that what it was?
But since I was called out on it, I feel like you
needed to just kind of come in straight laced today.
Why not? That's different too.
What, straight laced?
Yeah, because usually I alter it a little bit.
That's kind of a strange phrase, isn't it?
Straight laced. Yeah, I get. I don't know. I never really gave much thought.
Were there people that weren't? I don't know how'd they do their laces, or does it?
Well, I think it has more to do with like lace, like not like a shoelace, but like lace, where your lace isn't, it's not all curly or crumpled or whatever.
Oh, it's.
Like it's.
I guess I'm a guy. I don't think a lace.
I'm just saying it's the only way I can understand that term. I don't understand the term "cut of your jib" because I don't know what the fuck a jib is.
Weren't we talking about that?
I think we talked about it at some point or another. But
I remember that
because I don't know what the fuck a jib is.
It was something on a boat. It was like the sail on a boat.
Yeah, but I don't see how it applies to people.
And the pirate ships had a different jib.
Yeah. Yeah, but how we use it,
a different shape to the jib.
But how it's used in language
there's
is
lots of
I don't like the cut of his jib.
I don't know.
It's just so old timey, and I just don't get it.
I don't know anyone under the age of 70 that says that. Though.
I say it
like seriously,
ironically a lot.
You're the only person I think I've heard say that in, I don't know, 30 years.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Good comeback. Good.
What? There's nothing to come back on. I don't know what else to say. That one has always kind of bothered me a little bit, just because I didn't know what the fuck a jib was, and having found out what it is, I still don't see how it applies.
Back in my youth, a jib was something very different.
It was a jibber.
No, we was called go roll up a jib.
I remember calling them jibbers.
A smoke a jib.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I guess I never really thought about that either. Very interesting. Or maybe not. Maybe it's not interesting at all, and you've already turned us off.
Right.
You're like, fuck that. They're talking about jibs. I don't know.
What the fuck are they
talking about? Pirates and sailing. What the hell am I listening to?
Why am I even listening to these fuckers anyway?
So before we get into our topic, I did want to say, so we're recording this on Friday the 7th.
To be uploaded or out in the world.
It'll be on the 9th.
The 9th, yeah.
Sunday morning it'll be out.
Mm-hmm.
And Green Day's new album came out today. I know we don't talk about music enough on this show, but I figured I want to talk about that real quick because
I listened on Spotify. I didn't get a chance to go out and pick it up yet. I'm poor now.
I haven't listened to the whole thing yet. I've only listened to the first 6 songs, I think, 6 or 7 songs. So I listened to a majority of the album, and I was very underwhelmed. I mean, there's some albums that I do need to kind of listen to multiple times before I really get into it, and this could be the case. But I just from first listen, I just wasn't really impressed by it.
To be fair,
it's a decent album. I'm not like
completely
shitting on it.
It took me about 3 or 4 listens for Revolution Radio, which was their last album. I listened to it. It's kind of the same thing. I was very underwhelmed, but then once I got through it a few times and really kind of got a grasp of whatever it was they're trying to do with it, because it was different for them, and this one's very different as well.
It is.
So I'm assuming this album's going to be the same. I'm just going to have to give it several listens, and then I'll make up my mind from there. I'm not even going to give it I'm not even going to try and judge it now. After I listened to the one time all the way through. So generally,
for the most part, and there are some exceptions. The first time I listened through an album, if I generally not really feeling it, I'm never going to feel it.
No, so that's not the case for me. Because if that were true, I wouldn't like Green Day at all.
Yeah.
It took me a while to really get an idea of what they were, Early on, I didn't like them.
Yeah.
And now they're in, my top 5 favorite bands.
I mean, because one of those albums that were one of those that after I listened to it a couple of times, I really got into it was 21st Century Breakdown. Yeah, no, see that one I didn't have a problem with from the beginning. I enjoyed pretty much from the beginning of that album to the end of the album. I was enjoying it right away.
But Revolution Radio was.
Yeah, I'm still not a fan.
And to be fair, even with Uno Dos Tre, Dos and Tre, they had to grow on me too. Yeah. I was into that right from the get go. But Dos and Tre, they had to grow on me a little bit too.
I guess I just don't like the musical direction that they've gone, and I understand. You can't. Your music has to evolve.
Yeah.
Especially an artist that's been around as long as Green Day has.
Because they're pushing 30 years.
Yeah, you've got to be able to. Your music has to evolve. You got to try different things. Yeah. And it's just for the last couple of albums, I just don't like the direction that they've taken.
Right. Well, and I think they're in a state now where, they can do 2 or 3 albums in this state and then go do something else, and maybe even do a return to form album in 10 years or whatever. They're at that point; they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
They're once you've hit that 30-year mark and had the success, especially that they've had, even if this album and even the next album we'll say they're the weaker of their catalog, doesn't mean they can't come back with a roaring punk rock album in 2026 or something.
So one of the things I was reading today about this album was. And I haven't had a chance to really fact check a lot of what I'm getting ready to say, but some of the things I was reading was this is their last on their current record deal. They had one more album left with Warner Music.
Reprise, yeah.
Well, it's
Warner, yeah,
it's Warner. Actually, I think it's through Reprise, but I think the actual contract is with Warner. Right. But anyway, so they were getting pressured from the record company or from the record label to release a new album. So they kind of rushed through this one just to release it so they can be done with this contract. It's kind of what
and that's to be fair, a lot of bands have done that.
Yeah, because a lot of bands are now going to independent labels, right, or releasing stuff themselves.
Well, and Billy Joe has his own label.
Yes,
so I don't really understand why they haven't done that already, unless it was just because they had such a lengthy contract already.
Yes.
So and they're a band that they can sell albums independently, and actually make some money off of it. Probably make more money than what they're getting from Warner.
Yeah, but they the one article I was reading was the whole artwork, name of the album was all of it together. The whole package was like a big fuck you to Warner, and then they were just gonna be done with them.
So the mother of all motherfuckers or father of all motherfuckers was the name of the album. Mm-hmm. That's Warner Brothers. Is that what they're trying to imply?
Yes.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I mean, I haven't really analyzed the lyrics too much on the songs.
I don't think lyrically there's anything referenced to any of that.
Yeah.
But the album was just kind of hurried through and put together, pushed out. So they could be done.
I almost got an overly produced vibe from it. To be honest with you,
I think that's just their music now.
I didn't get that from Revolution Radio.
I did get that. I got the same vibe from Revolution Radio.
No, I felt Revolution Radio had I wouldn't say a rough, garagey sound to it, but it wasn't. I didn't feel it was overly produced. I would say 21st Century Breakdown was more overly produced than Revolution Radio, but
in some ways,
that was the nature of that album, though. Yeah. I mean, it's a punk rock opera, essentially, is what it is. So I
felt like it was trying to be a rehashing of American Idiot, but
I think they kind of exist in the same universe.
Yeah,
American Idiot is.
First off, it's a far superior album.
Oh, I can't disagree with that. American Idiot is a better album. I equated it's like for me as a Tull fan, Jethro Tull's Thick as a Brick and Passion Play. Both are very unique and complex but also very similar in design. Mm-hmm. Thick as a Brick is an infinitely better album, but Passion Play is still a great album.
Yeah.
That's how I see those two, because it's very, very similar in how they kind of work out, but. Mm-hmm. The difference is with Green Day, American Idiot, and 21st Century Breakdown. Like I said, to me they exist in the same universe. American Idiot is like the punk rock version of the Bible in a sense. The Jesus of Suburbia and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas 21st Century Breakdown, existing in that same universe, is the punk rock version of Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, I don't know. It just, to me, it felt like they were like, hey, you know what? American Idiot did really well. Let's make an American Idiot-esque album.
Well, and then so what? Yeah, if that's what they did, but it's different. And it's very different. Still,
it's a good album. Yeah. It's nowhere close to what American Idiot was. I don't know.
I just think 21st Century Breakdown takes a much more like personalized, more human approach to whatever the concept there's going on, whereas American Idiot's a bit more lofty, a bit more on the philosophical side.
Maybe they need to get away from the theatrical side of it.
Well, and they did after that. Uno Dos Tres were just collections of songs, and Revolution Radio was a bit more political. It was a political album without the theatrics.
It wasn't overtly political, but
no, almost every song on there is a political song.
Yeah, but
I mean, of the time,
I felt like American Idiot was much more overtly political than 21st
Century.
But
as I said, in a much more philosophical way.
Okay.
Whereas I think
phrase it whatever way
Revolution
you want.
Radio is far more straightforward as far as political albums go.
Okay.
That's all.
I'm still not a fan of it, but okay. Yeah. And like I said, I'll listen to this. I'll listen to all the way through again tomorrow, and I'm sure a couple more times over the next week, and we'll see. We'll see how it feels. It's
not a very long album. I'll tell you that.
It was only 10 songs.
10 songs, and I think the longest song on there is 4 minutes.
Yeah. So it's really quick.
And I think there's a few songs that are under 2.
And that's why I kind of that kind of lends itself.
I was wondering about that
to the rush through aspect.
When I was listening to it, I was like, God, these songs are so short, and there's. It's not like the traditional punk. Punk songs are generally short, but you have 30 of them on an album.
Yeah.
Whereas this is 9 songs or whatever you said, 10 songs, and they're super short. It's just, I don't know.
I just, I don't know. Like I said, I'll listen to it again.
Yeah. For me, I think this is going to be a 3 listen, and then I can make a determination on whether or not I like it or not.
Yeah.
So,
give me 1 second here. I was trying to look at the album. That album is 26 minutes and 12 seconds long.
Yeah, that's what Spotify said. I don't think that can be right. It seemed like it was a little longer.
That's
than that.
Short.
Well, take it from me. I listen to artists that have single songs that are longer than that.
Oh, me too. I mean,
you do too. As next week's episode we'll explain. But that is super short. That's one side of a record back in the day.
Well, it shouldn't be.
It's a little over a side of a record.
Yes, It's a song and a half over.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But I just wanted to bring that up because I just don't know.
Yeah. No,
it came out today, and I thought it was
something
to talk about.
I haven't bought it. I'm going to buy it. I'm a completist, and like I said, like I told you, there's a couple songs that stood out that I really liked right off the bat. But overall, I haven't really felt.
There was nothing that
I'd have to look at the list because, like I said, I only listened to it once. But there's like 2 or 3 songs that I was like, oh, that's a good song. I like that.
Like, there was one song, I don't remember which one it was. It had I got like a seriously disco vibe from it, and I'm like, what are you guys doing?
There. I think I know what song that is. Because it's actually kind of derivative of a song off of Uno. If it's the song I'm thinking of, very similar in scope. Or in vibe, in sound.
Oh, yeah?
No.
That was the song.
That was the song. Oh, shit. Let me see your list. Because I haven't connected to the Wi-Fi.
That's the track list right there.
I think it was Stab You in the Heart. Stab You in the Heart has it sounds a lot like Kill the DJ on Uno.
Yeah.
Kind of derivative of that. Even in topic to a degree. I mean, Stab You in the Heart, Kill the DJ. Very similar, I guess. But the music was very similar, too.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't want to go into great detail about it. I just want to bring it up real quick because we actually do have a topic today.
Yeah,
with the Democratic debate is actually going on as we speak. We
watched the vast majority of it.
Yeah, we were supposed to start recording this like 2 hours ago, but
right.
We got caught up watching that. And they were talking about one of the things they were talking about was the topic that we were talking about tonight, which is Medicare for all, and whether or not it's even a viable kind of program.
The people on the stage are not just talking about how viable it is. They're just
no, they're just going back and forth trying to
talk about what they would do with it.
Their little talking points.
Yeah.
But that's why I was.
But the short answer is it's not viable.
I figured we'd try to dive a little deeper into.
Well, the short answer is it's not a viable option. I don't think.
No,
that's the short answer.
And I agree with you. I do agree with you. It really depends on how you want to implement it. Can it be a viable program? Yes. But is it a program that's going to win you a presidential election? I think it's a program, it's a policy that I think could cost you a presidential election.
Possibly. Not like gun control will, but to be fair, I think healthcare reform in general, I think the public is hungry for something there. And I don't think it will. I mean, you're obviously not going to win over any Republicans on that.
You're going to lose a lot of Democrats.
Possibly.
Look at it this way. Let's take Michigan. We live in the state of Michigan, and Michigan was a key factor in the 2016 election. So let's just take a look at Michigan. Do you know who the top 5 employers are in the state of Michigan?
I do not.
Ford, and I don't know, it's not in this order, but it's Ford, GM, Chrysler, the state of Michigan, and the University of Michigan. Those are top 5. What do those top 5 have in common? Strong employer-run health insurance programs.
Right. Okay. Well, I know at least one of them does.
So the 5 of those employ between 250 and 300,000 people in the state of Michigan.
It seems like a low number.
They're all between 50 and 60,000 each.
Okay.
Yeah. Or the higher, I think number 1 is I think General Motors is number 1. They have like 80,000 employees in the state of Michigan. But anyway, to combined, it's between 250 and 300,000. So if you're a presidential candidate, let's take Bernie Sanders for example, and you come into the state of Michigan, and your plan is to take those, we'll say 250,000 people, and take them off of their health. We're going to kick you off of your health insurance.
Right.
Your employer run, good, high quality health insurance, and we're going to give you a plan that doesn't cover as much and is going to be a lot more expensive. How are you, regardless of those 250,000 people's political affiliation, how you think they're going to vote?
First of all, none of them are saying that. That's what's going to happen.
That is bullshit.
No,
Bernie Sanders has said that.
It's going to be more expensive, though. I'm talking about that.
We'll get
That's the part I'm talking about.
We'll get into the numbers part. Because I do have the numbers here.
Yeah,
also.
no. Bernie Sanders actually on the very first debate, all of them raised their hand.
I know that. I know that.
Every other one of them,
and several of them have kind of walked back and said they kind of misunderstood what they were asking about.
Right. Well, that's debatable, but because in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with changing your mind. If you're
right.
So
you're right.
I didn't understand the question to me as a cop out, but you're right. When you point it out like that, you're absolutely right. But most people don't see that. And against my side of this, being the candidates that I support, generally speaking, they're not saying that. They're leaving that part out when they talk about
the cost of it.
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah,
that's what's gonna. There's 2 things that make Medicare for All prohibitive as a policy. 1 is the cost, and 2 is you've got 2 political parties, and one is never going to support it.
No, absolutely
so,
not.
No matter what, if, say, Bernie wins the election, he'll get it through the Senate as long as we don't lose too many seats in the Senate. He'll get it through the Senate, no problem. He's not going to get it through the Congress.
He'll get it through the House.
Through the House. He's not going to get it through the Senate.
Yes, exactly.
At all. No. It will not pass. Because the Senate can't even convict an obviously guilty person of a crime.
That's a whole different topic.
Yeah. So he's never going to get it passed through the Senate, regardless. I mean, even if we picked up some seats in the Senate, he's never going to get it passed through the Senate. And arguably, if we lose seats in the House, he could not get it passed through the House. Look how hard it was for Obamacare, and that wasn't even anywhere near what we're talking about.
No. But I just don't see how you're going to go win a state like Michigan when you're talking to, hundreds of thousands of people that you're going to say, look, I know you love your health insurance, but in 2 years it's going to be gone.
Right. And that's
because you're not going to win those people.
I'm one of those people.
I am also.
Because I love my insurance, and it for me as a single person, I don't pay a lot of money, and I'm covered for everything.
But here, we'll talk. You mentioned numbers. We'll talk about numbers real quick. And these are all numbers I pulled from the CBO, which is the Congressional Budget Office.
Which I did go to that website after because I asked you about it, but I forgot to take notes.
All right. So according to the CBO, Medicare for All would create an additional $34 trillion in federal spending over the first 10 years.
Okay. It should go down after that, though.
These are, but I'm talking just first 10 years. And these are CBO numbers. And that $34 trillion is more than the federal government would spend in Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security combined.
Over that same period of time.
Over the same period. The Urban Institute, which is another like non-political group, they estimated that the Medicare for All would require $32 trillion in new taxes over that same 10-year period. And in contrast to that, over that 10-year period, the CBO estimated that the federal government would collect a total of $23.3 trillion from all personal income tax in the country.
Right.
So you're going to collect. So we're already going to collect $23 trillion. It's going to cost an additional
$10 trillion.
An additional $10 trillion.
Right.
If population numbers don't change.
Right.
So,
or tax rates.
So that's that. So you're talking about an additional third almost.
Mm-hmm. No, I know. I'm not. You're preaching to the choir.
So when you see people like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren stand on stage and talk about this, I feel that they're very disingenuous when they talk about when it comes to cost.
I wouldn't say it's disingenuous. I think because in their minds they're seeing it as, specifically Bernie, is yes, it's going to cost money, but we're also going to be raising the taxes on the wealthy.
Okay,
that's
his I've got those numbers also. Okay, because you're right. One of the ways that there's been proposed to pay for it would be to raise taxes on the wealthy. Mm-hmm. But going off of Elizabeth Warren's plan to raise taxes on personal finances in excess of $50 million, would only create an additional $2.75 trillion over the 10 years. Okay.
Well, that's Elizabeth Warren's.
And
okay.
This is I've got all the parts here.
Okay.
Repealing the Trump tax cuts which is another thing they said. Well, that will create another $2 trillion over 10 years. Eliminating the cap on payroll taxes would create an additional $1.2 trillion. You see where I'm going though? It's like these programs that they're proposing are just small bites of what would be needed to cover the program.
We're already halfway there on the deficit. With those three programs you just mentioned, we're already halfway there.
And the rest of it, which has been, and this is not one person's proposal. I'm taking pieces from both of their plans. Bernie has proposed a VAT tax, which the VAT tax works in Europe. That's what that's what European countries use to fund their own health insurance programs. But if you instituted a VAT tax to make up that gap, that VAT tax would be in the neighborhood of 20 to 25% tax on all U.S. goods exported. Mm-hmm. Do you see what kind of damage that would do for our export business, though?
Yeah.
I mean, if our goods going into other countries are 20 to 25% more, I guarantee our exports go way fucking down because they can produce those products in other countries cheaper at that point.
Right.
Especially the way labor rates are. So, but if you're able to institute a 25% VAT tax with those other programs, you come close, close to
making up that deficit,
making up that number. But the big thing is, and I'm sorry, I've missed one piece of it. Another piece to kind of cover the rest of it would be to raising the top income tax to 50%, which is an absolute laughable fucking number because no Democrat or Republican would ever pass that.
What was it in the 50s though? It was like 70%.
It was yes.
So
the top tax rate was yes.
So well, I mean, I'm not a keen negotiator, but it seems to me like let's compromise. Shoot for 70, compromise to 50.
but no Republican or Democrat. Yes, some Democrats would vote for that. You will never get a majority vote.
No, that's the problem because that's their money too.
Yeah, exactly. That policy would never even come up for a vote in the House or Senate. It would never happen.
Right.
So and that's just to come close to covering that cost.
Right.
And that's what makes Medicare for All so hard. Is you're talking about what would be an insanely huge tax increase on middle America. Mm-hmm. On poor Americans.
Right.
If you're paying as an individual, as a young individual, if you're paying $1,000 a year for your health insurance, and that number is now going to be $5,000 a year, which would be somewhere in that neighborhood, that's a big fucking increase.
Well, it wouldn't be that much because they probably don't even pay that much in taxes, or they may not even be earning enough to pay that kind of level.
But the numbers I've seen has been in that range.
Mm.
That it would be
somewhere. It would be for you and me. Our taxes would go up from, like you said, about the, say.
It would be. I mean, it's in the, and that's,
well, to be fair, my health insurance, just as a single person, is, you suggested $600. It's actually like just over $500 a year. I pay $500 a year, and I have insanely good coverage.
Yeah.
As a single person, you pay a lot more because you're paying for a family.
Mm-hmm.
But still, equally, you're paying a lot less for your insurance to have that fantastic insurance than you would under this plan.
Even covering an entire family, my tax costs would double.
Right.
They would double.
And
as a family,
as a Democrat, as a liberal myself, I don't have a problem with paying my fair share, but I don't like the idea of paying more for less.
Yes, and which is what you would do.
That doesn't make any sense.
The health insurance we have covers everything, and it's an affordable program, and that's why I am more aligned with some of the more moderate Democrats around that stage when they're talking about adding a public option, which is basically Medicare for all who want it, which is
right.
Pete Buttigieg's plan. But I would be in favor of doing something like that. Look, if you want to buy into Medicare, that's fine.
Well, that's how I feel about it. I'm Medicare for all who want it.
Yes.
The only problem I have is I don't think that would help as much with the numbers, because ultimately taxes will still have to go up, and people who aren't even taking advantage of it now still have to pay for it. And that's a hard sell. But a hard sell.
Yeah, but you also have to remember, there's still a lot of people, a majority of the country I wouldn't say a majority, a huge chunk of this country has employer-run health insurance programs.
Right.
So,
but not necessarily good. I know several people who have employer-paid insurance pay more than me, and it sucks.
Oh, absolutely.
So, you got to take that into account as well. And again, I'm not so bothered by paying an additional 0.5% or 1% on my income, because I'm very low middle class at this point. But somebody in a position who can't afford their insurance should be able to have something available to them. So I'm definitely, I guess the public option, Medicare for all who want it, is a viable compromise. And the thing is you're not going to convince me. There's so many other issues that I'm bothered by some of the more moderate candidates. I'm still going to support Bernie as of right now, regardless of his stance on the universal health care situation, because I know he can't get it passed.
But that's the thing, though.
He's going to have to compromise it down.
He's not going to be able to win a general election.
I think he can.
By telling huge numbers of people that they're going to lose their health insurance. Right. It's not going to happen. You saw how people freaked out when the Affordable Care Act was enacted, and people weren't losing their health insurance.
Right. But I think that's going to help him. That's going to help him because people will be less likely to freak out.
I doubt that, because that's why I said, though, regardless of what your political affiliation is, regardless of how you feel on other topics, when it comes to what's going to cost you and your family your health care, people are always 100% of the time, or almost 100% of the time, going to vote with their pocketbook.
Of course, but here's the problem: we're challenging our side. We're applying a higher standard. Let's look at what Trump is doing. He's changing the law so that each state can decide how they spend their Medicaid money.
Yes, block grants.
Block grants,
yes.
Which is going to cut in several red states because they are Republican run. That money is not going to go to Medicaid.
No, because it doesn't,
and it's going to cause young children with no,
because it's not legal. They're not legally obligated
to spend it on
that program.
Exactly. So children are going to go without. So telling it's in my opinion, I mean, I could be wrong on this, but telling somebody that they have to go with a public option of health care instead of what they like, opposed to telling somebody that, no, you have to fucking die instead because we're not going to pay for your health care anymore. We're not going to get your immunizations. We're not going to pay for any of that. To me, there is a give and take there. Mm-hmm. The thing is, if Bernie can sell that, he will win.
I don't think he can. You know, and actually,
well, if Bernie can, I'm going to tell you this right now. If Bernie cannot beat Trump, none of them can.
I think there's a couple of them that can.
Buttigieg cannot beat Trump.
I think he can.
No, he can't. He cannot. There's no way he cannot win the South. He can't even get the moderates in the South.
No fucking Democrat is going to win the
South.
South.
But there's moderate votes they can get in the South. He won't get them.
You're not going to get enough. I don't care how many fucking. I don't care how many moderate votes Bernie Sanders gets in Alabama. He's not going to win Alabama. I don't care how many he gets in Mississippi. He's not going to win Mississippi.
The difference is that homophobia doesn't just exist in the South.
That's very true. That's very true. But Bernie's not going to win Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, South Carolina. He's not going to win any of them.
He might.
He has zero fucking shot of winning any of those states.
I think he could possibly. I don't know if he could win Tennessee.
No,
but I don't think it'd be a landslide against him. Even Kentucky. I think he can put up a good fight in Kentucky too.
I think Bernie Sanders has a good shot at winning the election. Where he's going to have a huge struggle is with Medicare for all.
I agree. But, well, do you think it's that or his gun policy?
I think more so with Medicare for all than with anything else.
See, and I would say the gun policy would probably be more of a sticking point because you see it all the time. Republicans will vote for candidates who are strong on guns, but will tax the shit out of them while cutting taxes for their wealthy friends, and they do it every fucking time. They shoot themselves in the foot literally over issues like guns because they're key topics for them.
So Rick Wilson, he was a Republican strategist. I saw him on the Daily Show last week. I don't watch a Daily Show. I just want to throw that out there so it's not like something I'm like, oh, I watch it all the time. I
haven't watched it in ages.
Like this clip was the only thing from the Daily Show I've seen in probably 3 years. But it was. I think he made a really good point that kind of resonated with me. And he said that Democrats, basically what he said was, in a nutshell, Democrats play to win an argument while Republicans play to win an election. You know, and the fact that, and it's something, it kind of goes against, part of this kind of goes against what I've always given Democrats shit for. It's like, look, if you have a proposal, I want to know what your proposal is. But what he was talking about was, it's okay to have a proposal, have an idea of what you want to do. You don't have to give every little fine detail of how you're going to get there. Because what you're doing is you're giving Trump and the Republicans ammunition to find any little detail in there that they can scare the shit out of voters with. And that's how they win elections. Is by scaring the public to vote against you.
Of course. I mean, that's obvious. And that's really kind of my point.
But if you look at national polling numbers from any source, Medicare for all is very unpopular with suburban women, which is a huge block that the Democrats relied on in 2018 in the midterm elections.
Yeah, a lot of those candidates ran on universal health care.
No, they didn't.
AOC did.
Yes, upstate New York. Yes.
A lot of those candidates were running on very, very progressive policies.
In New York, you can get away with that. In California, you can get away with that. In Massachusetts, in some sprinkling areas in the New England area, yeah, you can. You're not going to win anything in Pennsylvania with that. Outside of Pittsburgh, because take Pennsylvania for instance. The thing that they've said for a long time about Pennsylvania is you've got Pittsburgh on one end, you got Philadelphia on the other, and you got Alabama in the middle. You outside of those two main cities, you're not going to win anything with that. Outside of southeastern Michigan, you're not going to win anything with that.
Well, Lansing, you can win in Lansing.
But that's what I'm saying though is the strategy of going out there with wildly I agree with some of the policies that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren have. I don't necessarily agree with how they're getting there. And I feel that some of the policies are too progressive to win in a general election with. So what's the problem with going out there and saying, look, this is what we're gonna do, and then just kind of leaving it as a vague idea, and then look,
because then they'll be accused of not having any plan.
But that's fine. They can't attack you on your plan
if you don't have a plan.
No, I'm not saying
you're not giving them your plan.
Yes, exactly. Because that's how Trump did it. When Trump won the Republican nomination in 2016, he had all sorts of plans. He didn't tell anyone how he was going to do it.
Right. Wait and see.
Yeah. Even though he didn't really say it like that, but
he did say that actually several times on several issues. Just wait and see.
The Democrats need to approach it the same way. Look, we have plans, we have ideas, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, but we're going to wait till the election to kind of lay out how this is all going to unfold.
Well, I also think that
if you go on any of the 7 people's websites that were on the stage tonight, every single one of them have every little detail for every little proposal laid out on the website. It makes it really easy for a strategist to go in there and pick the plans apart.
Right. The other thing that I think would be a strong way to go, not necessarily on the plans, but, and the Republicans do this too, is push the extremes so that you can find the common ground. And I think that's what we're going to get. It's the only thing we can get out of Bernie. Because you're right. Regardless of how the voters, if Bernie wins, there's still never going to be enough votes. He's never going to have enough votes to get his version of Medicare for all passed. No. He just won't. So the idea is that he pushes the extreme so that he can compromise down to an acceptable level.
But why not do it? 'Cause when you started an extreme angle at it, you're making it more likely that you're never going to get in a position where you can push anything. Why not, if you're Bernie Sanders, why not go at it and say, look, we want to cover everyone. We want to cover everyone in the country. But if you have your private insurance plan, you can keep it. And then guess what? Get elected and say, you know what, look, we're going to look at it and say, look, we want to pass Medicare for all. Mm-hmm. And then see if you can get that passed. But get fucking elected first.
Right. Well, it's a common fact that the two parties function very differently when it comes to elections. They do. And in a perfect world, the Democrats have the better way of doing it. Mm-hmm. It's the more democratic way of doing it. The Republicans.
But I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in what's the best way to go about it. I'm interested.
I said in a perfect world.
I know that. I'm interested in fucking winning. Look, Democrats need to fight in states that fucking matter, and unfortunately, that means not going to California. That means not going to New York. That means not going to Alabama, Oklahoma. Those states that you already have that you know are going to vote for you, or that you know in a million fucking years isn't going to vote for you. Invest money in states that fucking matter.
Right. You don't think there's some value in going to those states where you don't think you can win? You don't think there's some value in going to Alabama and going down on getting in the street, going to those farmhouses, going to those really low-income areas and actually being there and talking to these people? You don't think there's any value in that?
Not in an election where you're running against an incumbent president, because that incumbent president has money tenfold over you.
And he's not going to do that. That's the thing. Trump, this president isn't going to be talking to anybody other than at his rallies.
But the thing is, Trump has already spent more money than the entire Democratic field combined. Mm-hmm. And he's going to this entire election season. So you need to be smart with the money you have.
Right.
And attack the areas that you need to attack. If you have areas in red states where you feel you can go to help down the ticket, that's one thing. But that's not going to happen.
Well, down ticket, we can't be thinking about down ticket right now.
If you're running for president, you have to think of the whole picture.
True, but down ticket is not as valuable as the presidency now.
But what I'm saying is the entire party. Look, the party needs to look at states that matter and invest money in those states to win the election. You've got to win this presidential election.
Yeah. Well, there's no question, and I don't think any candidate. Honestly, as much as I think Bernie stands a better chance, Buttigieg maybe he stands a better chance too. I don't think so. I think initially he'll be strong against Trump, but I think ultimately Trump will win because Buttigieg won't play by Trump's rules.
I don't know about that.
I don't see him doing it. I don't. Whether it's because there's a sense of honor I sense from him, and I'm not saying that Bernie doesn't have that. Bernie's just older. He doesn't give a shit. He will say whatever he thinks, and that's Buttigieg will not say what he thinks. He says what he.
We watched 2 hours of the debate tonight,
roughly, yeah.
Where he was attacked for a good chunk of it, and I felt like he did a really good job.
Yeah, he can stand up to Joe Biden. He can stand up to Elizabeth Warren. Trump is a whole nother animal.
I think he'll be just fine. And if you haven't guessed, that's who I would vote for right now. But
I have issues with Buttigieg just because he's too centrist. But I think you're too centrist, so I wouldn't vote for you either.
He's not.
I will vote for him.
I wouldn't say he's centrist.
I think he's too centrist.
How is he centrist?
He is. He's too centrist. He's a
little. Thanks for throwing out that knowledge nugget there. But what centrist on what?
Well, on his healthcare plan, and it's what I agree with. I'm telling you. Look, I'm being naive. I
wouldn't classify any of them on that stage as centrist.
Joe Biden, you wouldn't classify him as centrist?
No, I wouldn't classify him as centrist.
Well, then I think our personal definitions of centrist are very different.
Are you comparing him to Bernie Sanders on the far end of the left, centrist?
See, okay, Bernie Sanders, and I don't even think Bernie Sanders is that far to the left.
If you compare the two of them, yeah, I could say centrist. But looking at the full political landscape, Joe Biden is not a centrist.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he falls more towards the centrist than progressive.
Going back to Mayor Pete, though, what centrist programs?
Is healthcare issue. First of all, let me explain.
Because he doesn't want to kick.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But my problem is he's not willing to push the extremes. The Republicans push the extremes. It's all or nothing with them, and they win.
That goes back to yes. And you know what?
We need it all or nothing.
I want to fucking win.
We need all or nothing.
All or nothing is not going to get you fucking elected.
Why does it work for them?
Because it's a different fucking voting block. They've got a different base.
Or no, they've got different standards, and they're held to a lower bar than we are.
They have different ideas and principles that they're going after. I'm telling you, without a shadow of a doubt, it's a losing battle to go into Midwestern states and tell hundreds of thousands of people, "Hey, I know you love your insurance, but guess what? In 2 years, it's not going to be there."
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not. I'm really not saying you're wrong.
Okay.
But I'm just telling you that unless you push an extreme agenda to some degree...
No. You get elected. Get elected.
Well, then Bernie needs to start taking money from corporations so he can pay for this election because, like as you pointed out, Trump's... So Bernie has to go against his own personal views, his own personal principles. That's the only way he can win. Buttigieg's already doing it. He's already taking money from corporations. Mm-hmm. That's part of the problem. These corporations give them money, and then they expect something from it. And they pull that funding in the next election if you don't give it to them.
This is the thing. I want someone that's going to get elected. There are candidates on that stage that I think would have a huge issue winning elections. I understand that national polling has them polling better than Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. The top four candidates all are polling higher than Donald Trump head to head. All four of them. But when it comes to election time and people have to go in that booth and put down a name, he's going to have a problem.
The problem is I don't think people are going to vote for Trump because they don't think that Bernie is a good candidate. They're just not going to show up. If they were for Bernie, or I should say if they're not for Trump, they're just not going to show up.
Who, Bernie Sanders supporters? Because that's already happening. There's already complaints out there. There's already the thought process of Iowa was fixed. There's all
I know. I see that all
these
over.
Irregularities, and they're already trying to screw Bernie, which is complete fucking bullshit.
Well, it doesn't matter. I actually had an argument with somebody about that exact same thing on Facebook. It doesn't matter. They both get they both got the same amount of fucking delegates. What difference does it make?
I know.
The election was super close. It's a virtual tie.
But they're saying
how is a virtual tie being ripped off?
They're saying it's close because it was rigged.
Yeah, well, fuck that. I agree with you. It's fuck that. Because it's the first fucking... who gives a shit about Iowa?
I know.
I mean, how many people voted? Like 200,000 people total?
You remember, was it 4 years ago? Or was that 8 years ago when Michelle Bachmann won Iowa? So,
right.
And where did her political grid go?
Didn't Obama lose Iowa?
No, I thought he won Iowa.
Well, he might have. But there was a list of presidents who lost Iowa and still won the fucking election.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't fucking
And Joe
matter.
Biden said that tonight. That's a long race.
And as I tried to point out to these people...
There's, 56 states and territories that are in it?
I don't know.
I think it's
the point is that what I tried to explain to them is it doesn't matter. They both got the same amount of delegates. Ultimately, Buttigieg, I don't think is going to get the nomination, regardless of how I feel about it. He won't get the nomination because I think ultimately, if they're going to steal the nomination from Bernie, they're going to give it to Elizabeth Warren.
I think it would go to Joe Biden before it would go to Elizabeth Warren.
2 months ago, yeah, it would have. I think it's going to go to Elizabeth Warren now.
Come South Carolina.
Because Elizabeth Warren...
In a couple of weeks, come South Carolina, Joe Biden's number is going to look very different than what
possibly,
they are right
and then that could change too. But the Democratic Party, I think they're... And I could be wrong. If it were me, I would say we've got 3 viable candidates, possibly 4.
Yeah.
I don't see Buttigieg as a viable candidate now. Mm-hmm. Down the road, yes. And I do. And to be fair, I could see him as a viable VP for sure.
Yeah.
And I think he would be a good VP, especially to a Bernie, because I think he is more centrist and he can balance Bernie out. But also, he's young. Bernie's old. You need that youth vote.
Yeah.
So, to be fair, I like Buttigieg as a VP. I do not see him viable as a president. And also, I would love to see the debate between Buttigieg and fucking Mike Pence.
Oh, yeah.
I would pay fucking money to see that because the contrast between those two it's tangible.
Night and day.
It's tangible, and I love it.
That'd be a very interesting religious debate.
Exactly. That's my point. I'd love to see that.
And as far as the thing that hurts Mayor Pete is the fact that he's a homosexual.
Yes. In this country, it does hurt him.
But where it hurts him, and I know this is not a very popular thing to say. This is very un-PC what I'm getting ready to say.
Amongst the black vote.
Yes.
It does.
It is still, in most black communities, it is still 100% okay to be openly homophobic. That's what hurts him. That's what's going to hurt him in black communities.
Of course. No, there's no question about that.
Yeah. And I think that it hurts him more in black communities than it does in white communities.
Right. Yeah,
because there's homophobia. There's homophobia across the board,
right?
But in black communities, it's okay to be openly homophobic,
right? The problem is, I think we're also dealing with there's a small, we're dealing with a minority. Even if it's a majority of a minority, it's still a minority of a majority. Could still be higher.
Yes,
I think there's probably still a lot more white people who are homophobic than black people.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just when you're dealing with the actual numbers,
because no Democrat wins the White House in the past 50 years without the black vote.
Right.
When African Americans don't come out and vote for you, Republicans win.
Right.
And it's just how it has been. So you have to have that black vote, and that's where I think he would struggle is with that. But on the flip side of that, I think he appeals more to the voters that voted for Obama once or twice and then voted for.
And I think maybe that's my problem is I see
Donald Trump.
I see a lot of Obama in him. I do, and a lot of the good stuff of Obama. But I also I get vibes of the bad stuff too.
It's if you look at election numbers from the Iowa caucus, which is the only thing we really have to go off right now. Mm-hmm. Mayor Pete did relatively good in the metropolitan areas in Iowa, which, I mean, So I really have metropolitan areas, but anyway.
Right.
But
we got 3-quarter stores.
He did about as well in those areas as you thought he would. Bernie did really well in those areas. Okay. Mayor Pete he overproduced in the rural areas of Iowa where Bernie really struggled.
Right.
And that's kind of that's how they really evened out the race. And I think that's kind of something that would be replicated across the country. Bernie is always going to do well in cities, in those metropolitan areas, the same places that Hillary Clinton did really well in.
Right.
And then he's going to struggle in rural areas where I feel that maybe Pete probably won't do as well in cities, but he can appeal more to a broad spectrum in more rural areas.
You don't think that his homosexuality would hurt him in those rural areas specifically?
I think it's going to hurt him equally. I feel it's going to hurt him equally in rural areas that it would in metropolitan areas.
See, I don't think so. I think metropolitan areas are exposed to homosexuality on a much larger basis and are probably more accepting of it. Whereas in the rural areas, they're not.
And I think that
you got to figure, especially in the Bible Belt.
Look, I'm absolutely 100% he would lose votes because of his homosexuality, where he makes up, and it seems that the more he goes out and talks to people, he wins them over. And that's what you kind of see in those rural areas. His military service helps.
That does help him. Absolutely.
Helps win him over.
Also, you're very, very, very right. I think Bernie's activism helps him on a grand scale.
I think his activism, yes, is a net positive. Absolutely. I think that there is some aspects of his political life over the past 50 years that hurts him.
Like what?
It's the whole Iran thing and
well, see, you keep bringing that up. I've never seen that. I've never seen that, and I need to see. You show me video because everything was. We had videotape back then. If you show me video of him on the Senate floor saying,
well, he wasn't in the Senate, but
whatever. You show me video of him doing that, and I'll take your word for it. I don't trust any news source anymore. I do not. Not 100%.
But even just some of the far left ideas that he's espoused and upheld, he's going to lose votes for.
Perhaps, and you're right. But I think he's going to lose votes just for having the D in front of his name.
That's true.
Because we live in a climate where
you say
it's almost been criminalized to be a Democrat.
But you say that though, and it was the same 8 years ago.
Not as bad. No. It was not as bad back then.
You don't think so?
No, absolutely.
Well, I was living in Tennessee at the time.
You were living in Tennessee.
It was bad.
I know. I was in Tennessee in 2008.
Okay,
remember?
And
I saw it there too.
In 2012, it was really fucking bad.
Yeah, that's Tennessee.
But that's what I'm saying.
That's not an indicator of the whole country.
No, but it is a red state.
Actually, it's kind of purplish now.
No, it's not. That's a fucking red state.
Well,
absolutely.
They've adopted some very liberal policies.
They have. Well, I wouldn't say a lot. They've adopted one.
Some of their education policies are a little bit more liberal.
They're doing free community college.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
that's the only policy. But okay,
but still, it's more than some blue states.
I lived
more than most.
I lived in a college town, a big college town in Tennessee. And when I went to the ballot box in 2012, there weren't any fucking Democrats on it. And I'm not exaggerating. Out of the 15 or 18 spots that were available to vote for, I want to say there was two Democrats. That was it. They were even running.
Right. Well, that's because they're not running.
So
that's the problem.
I would say that Tennessee is a very strong red state.
Fair enough.
And
it
has been since 2000.
Still. I mean, yes, there's more red states than there are blue states, but there's more blue voters than there are red voters.
That's true.
So maybe we need to get rid of the electoral college so that things are more balanced.
Well, if you can go back and listen to a previous episode of the Life in General podcast where we discussed all that, because I don't want to delve into that now.
Right.
But anyway,
well, it would solve a lot of our problems.
I would say, and by the way, Mayor Pete's a big proponent of getting rid of the electoral college.
Like I said, I like him as a VP.
But he's a moderate. But anyway,
he is a moderate. I do see him as a moderate.
I would say he is progressive. He is not as progressive as Bernie Sanders. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. It's just the numbers I feel aren't there that support a Medicare for all program.
No, they're not.
Financially speaking, I think it's a losing battle.
I think if they could get the tax rate on the wealthy up to, say, mid 1960s levels, I think we could do it. But we know that won't happen.
Even that, you're going to struggle to make up that funding gap without raising a lot of taxes.
You say that, but I think Amazon doesn't pay any fucking taxes.
Correct.
On billions of dollars. So if all these corporations and all these billionaires started paying their fair share,
first off,
that would jump the intake of the country.
First off, the corporate tax rate has never been that high.
Well, it needs to be.
Well, that's a whole different idea, and that's something you will never in a million fucking years.
Because that's part of my problem with politicians taking money from the corporations.
Well, because
we need to get money out of politics, and that's Bernie. That's one of the main reasons I like Bernie. He wants to get money out of politics, and he has held true to not taking any money from corporations. He's held to it. Elizabeth Warren has not. Buttigieg has not.
No. And now I would say that Mayor Pete has, as far as I saw, there was only one donation he's taken from one super PAC that, I don't either of the super PAC.
Yeah, I think there was only one for Elizabeth Warren that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I think it was only one.
And don't get me wrong. I want to win too. And if we have to take money from corporations, then so fucking be it. But, there's a lot to be said for someone who doesn't, who isn't owned by anybody.
I'm more interested in winning, though. That's the issue.
Don't get me wrong. I am too.
All things equal, if we're living in a perfect society, and this is...
If we were living in a perfect society, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Let's just say this, and I'll kind of leave it at this point. If we're living in a perfect society where you had Democrats on one side, Republicans on another, and they were having civil...
legitimate disagreement about policy.
But they had similar ideas, just different ways of getting to those policies... I would agree with you. I would say, look, I want my politician to take the high road and do the right thing and show class by not taking this corporate money. We don't live in that world. We live in a world where we need to fucking win.
Right.
And you said it yourself. If you sling dirt back.
Absolutely.
That's the same thing. You need to have the war chest, especially when you're going after an incumbent president who has literally spent the last 3+ years raising money for this election. He started raising money for 2020 the day after he was inaugurated.
Right. Well, the money's just being thrown at him by the Koch brothers and all these other groups that have always supported Republican politicians, but they've been throwing their money at him no matter what because they know that they need to keep him because they're going to get what they want out of him.
Well, anyway, man, that's all I got. You got anything else you want to add? I'll give you the last word on it, Ian.
The last word, pumpernickel.
Okay.
That's my last word.
Any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@lifeandjournalpodcast.com. Check us out on Twitter @LIGPod. We're on Facebook, Podbean, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, our YouTube channel. I almost forgot about YouTube.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it, man. Yeah. Sure. Okay.
What do you want me to say?
Well, I'm trying to end the show here. I figure something. All right. Talk to you later.
Peace.
You're such a jackass.
Yes, I am.
Goodbye.
Play my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a guard around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you some cobras, you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, the niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that y'all sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bruh. We taking the dub, hoping you get you some. This hit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Know they see the sign. That's some dollar signs. Know they sick as fuck. Know they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Know you sick as fuck. Get well soon.
Oh shit. Watch out, you the god, Billy. Oh shit. Right now.
bottles. We mash at the party, they hate when we stylin'.